have Aftermoo with his very popular Draven on Soul Reaver Draven. Quick little thought. Who, even once you're back, who do you think will invade? Because I'm taking a look at the team comps, and if one team was to invade, my guess it would be MME with the rupture of Cho'Gath.
Yeah, they have a lot of strength early game. Is my mic better?
Your mic is a bit better, yes.
Okay, good. They do have some really strong early game abilities. If Yorick decides to go Omen of Pestilence, they'll have it for scouting and for an AoE slow. Of course, Cho'Gath with his Rupture if he decides to go for that first. And Aframu on Draven is going to have some of the highest damage potential in the game level 1 thanks to those spinning axes. And if Morgana is able to land a bind as well, that could easily be a pick and win that level 1 engagement. But we're going to have to see. It looks like Cho'Gath and Karthus have seen each other in the mid lane. They're just going to go ahead and dance about. This means that if one of them disappears from view, then the other is going to be able to move into the jungle, potentially to the rest of their team. We see Draven down in the tri-brush, waiting though. Udyr sitting around Dragon, making sure that there isn't an invade from the rest of MME. This is very similar to what we saw last game. Not too much going on early on. Both teams taking a very defensive posture.
So we see a defensive ward onto the Wraiths of Curse, trying to make sure that nothing gets stolen, or at the same time no one's ready and waiting for when that jungler does wander on down from there. And a very wise choice considering how effective MME was in going to the jungle, waiting for the jungler to walk by and trying to pick him off. And St. Vicious, he may still be sore from that beating he took later on in game 1 that they just had.
Oh no, look at this. Balls is trying to steal this blue Wraith. But he is going to get caught out. There's the damage from Jace. He is completely cut off. He's going to try to flash over the wall. Curse Nightjackie, landing a nice lay waste, and the first blood is going to go to West Rice. Nice pick off there. That is going to be absolutely terrible for whoever ends up going top against Jace. I'm still not quite certain who is. I think it is probably going to be Yorick. Cho'Gath is going to be in the mid lane. That's why he was there in the first place. Silly old me. But Jace is going to allow him. It's going to allow him to farm, and Yorick is going to have a really tough time against this Jace. You talked about it a little bit earlier. Jace, a nice counter pick to Yorick.
Yeah, and also with that first kill going on to Jace, he's going to pick up a very quick early item, and it's going to make Yorick's life an absolute living hell, because all Jace has to do is Q onto Yorick, 1 or 2 auto attacks, and then swiftly eat him away with that big health percentage chunk. We're actually seeing some big aggression onto Ezreal very early on.
Yeah, Draven getting exhausted just so he can survive. There's the flash in. Auto attack from onto Cop isn't going to be enough, but that is some really strong play coming out from Aframu already. Binding, landing onto elements. Is Aframu in position? A black shield going out, trying to defend from some of that damage, but he's just going to go ahead, push this to tower so quickly. This is one of the real strengths of Draven, is his pushing power. Another binding landing onto elements. Muffin Cutie is doing a great job of landing these, making support Morgana really worth it. Though Aframu, even though he is pushing really hard, it's leaving him vulnerable. We see that the ward isn't up as far as it sometimes is. Udyr, however, all the way up at the mini golems. There isn't going to be a gank bot lane for a good long while.
Look how effective Jace is in this top lane. He's already well over double the farm of Yorick, and the poke is just so strong. Generally speaking, when you play Jace, more often than not, you're going to max that Q. But going against Yorick, who's incredibly good out-sustaining and trying to out-sustain lanes, the E, getting up the higher health percentage, oh my god, so many bindings getting landed onto Curse. Muffin Cutie is almost untouchable.
So St. Vicious coming around in the mid lane for a gank. A nice wall of playing from Nightjackie is going to slow him down. Skarner is here for the counter gank. A Bear Stun comes out from St. Vicious, but he is getting burst down. Ignite is out on him. He is forced to flash out, and Turtle Stance, a nice rupture, is going to land, but I don't think it's going to be enough now. Smithy, a mandatory cloud chasing down on Nightjackie, but he is going to be able to get back to his tower just in time. Nice play coming out from MME, but they were not able to pick up a kill onto either of them. But this is going to free up Smithy to wander around in Udyr's unfortunately empty jungle.
And the one time the camera directs me down to the bottom lane, Muffin Cutie actually misses a bind. I didn't think it would happen this early on.
Yeah, he's done an absolutely excellent job of landing these binds. Oh, missed another. Oh man, he's dropping the ball. Muffin Cutie, what's going on? So bad.
But what was interesting about that play mid, even though no kills were had, it forced Udyr to go back and buy. It forced Nyjaki to also be extremely defensive and blow a couple extra health potions. So Cho'Gath, his passive gives him innate sustain with every single last hit he gets, and at this level, pros get quite a few last hits as we've seen, so he's going to heal up very nicely along, as well having a very safe big mana pool. Even though his Q and W cost quite a big chunk, a couple last hits get him right back into a very nice spot and allow him to do that combo yet again. And so you just see how much of a difference it made, because now Cho'Gath has 40 farm compared to Karthus' 26.
Yeah, that's huge. Karthus is very farm dependent. His skill set allows him to farm very easily, but if you don't get that farm, for some reason, you get ganked, you get camped.
Udyr coming up top again.
Whoop, top lane, yep, Udyr coming in for a gank. Red buff and Bear Stance are both applied. There's a slow from Westrise. Nice flash out, pushing balls away from his tower. He was going to try to juke through the bushes, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Yes, St. Vicious picking up second kill of the game onto balls.
At the same time, we see Skarner heading down to this bot lane, but going to walk right through a ward.
Yep, the binding does miss from Cutie, and he's taking a lot of harass. There's a stand aside, and the splash in from Xmithy. Red buff is applied, and that is going to be a kill for Aphromoo. In the meantime, though, Muffin Cutie did end up falling. Some clutch play from Cop, able to pick up that kill. I believe it was a Q that landed.
A Q into an Ignite. Actually, he's not even running Ignite. Apparently he's running Cleanse. I didn't spot that before the game loaded up. My apologies. But incredibly good, incredible awareness, knowing that even though there are 3 people converging under that tower, seeing that Morgana's low, landing that 1-for-1 kill, assist going to Morgana and Skarner respectively, but it's going to allow Ezreal to stay in the game.
So Mandatory Cloud has picked up 6. He's going to be building up those speed stacks. As soon as he starts hitting 5 or 6 stacks, it is going to be very difficult to push him out of lane. I want to see if he's going to be able to continue to deny Nyjaki farm.
And now Cho'Gath in the mid lane, he actually picked up a Cage's Lucky pick first, because with his ultimate, it's going to give him a nice boost in health, whereas some other mid laners, they may go for a Doran's Ring or 2 first just to stay a little bit safer in lane, but with the Feast, it's going to allow him to build up those stacks very nicely, and Cho'Gath, that very early Cages, will allow him to pull ahead very rapidly in gold.
So we see Mandatory Cloud has been pushing Nyjaki up onto the tower, but because he's Karthus, he's been able to farm up just fine. If it is allowed to catch up and farm, that could be huge. There are going to have to be some good ganks coming out from Xmithy, but instead he's coming up to the top lane. He's sitting in this bush. Westrise is not aware that he is there. He is not quite 6 yet, does not have Impale at the moment. But they're still going to go for it. There's the engagement from Westrise on the balls. Lots of burst damage, but Westrise is going to move into the bushes to try and juke out this gank, using his ultimate to speed himself up. Where's the acceleration gate? It has to come out soon. There's Ignite onto him. The damage is massive. But here comes the ultimate from Karthus. Is it going to be able to pick up the kill in response? Nope. That is going to be a nice, clean kill for MME.
The ghouls from Yorick allow him to be that much more tanky, because every ghoul that's out will reduce damage by 5%. And even though he didn't have his little ghouls out, he still had that Skarner ghoul up, and I believe it also had that W, so allowed him to be just tanky enough, even without much magic resistance, to clean up.
Sorry, Xmithy walking into St. Vicious, who is taking his red buff, but they're just going to say, see ya. Neither of them can really stick onto each other. Neither of them wants to really try to fight this out. Nyjaki is right there, but Skarner can run away at just about any time that he likes.
And almost letting that buy into the cop. Muffin Cutie trying to do whatever he can to try to get Aphromoo a very early kill or another kill, because he has that BF sword immediately. So they're actually playing this kind of like a kill lane. Got the big damage, one binding will make or break how the lane works out.
Yeah, that being said, they haven't really been able to do much. Nice poke damage coming out from Cop, able to really shut him down, but there is the ultimate from Aphromoo missing. Ignite went out, but it got cleansed. And now is he going to be able to pick up the kill? Elements is in a bad spot. The bleed is out, and the last auto attack from Aphromoo is going to be able to pick up the kill. Stepping out just to catch that last. Nice job from Aphromoo. Doing that pretty much on his own. In the meantime, Udyr moving up through the top bushes, looking for a potential kill. He can't quite move out yet. Balls suspects that something is up. He is just waiting for the minions to move up. They still have sight, I think. Udyr doesn't want to try to risk it. In the meantime, Draven and Morgana are both just going to go ahead and back and buy their items. Udyr finally moving up into the next bush. I don't think he was spotted. but it's going to be a nice long while until they can actually get this gank off. I think he suspects he's been spotted, so he is going to go ahead and back and buy. A lot of time wasted waiting in those bushes.
Yeah, I want to go back to that kill down the bottom lane. The stand aside from Draven actually knocked Ezreal into the bind from Morgana, and he was forced to cleanse that. So he wasn't able to cleanse the ignite, but cleansing the bind actually is what saved Ezreal's life.
So we see Draven and Morgana going to go ahead and pick up the double golems right there. We see that Nyjaki's farm up to 94 to Cho'Gath's 99. He has caught up very nicely. Right now, though, Xmithy in the top lane, waiting for balls to clear out those minions. And is he going to move up? Yes, here he comes, but the minions are there. They're not going to allow Xmithy to move into the bushes too sneakily. There is a ward from both sides in the river. They both suspect that Xmithy doesn't want to get spotted. No, he has not been spotted quite yet. These are just some very, very slow, drawn-out ganks, but now Westrice throwing out some nice harass. Xmithy finally thinking about moving up into those bushes. Finally. This gank has been so drawn out. There is the ghoul onto Westrice. So slow.
All the while, St. Vicious down the bottom lane looking to lane gank as well. So we could be seeing a simultaneous gank. Maybe once Skarner engages St. Vicious to realize, oh, there's not going to be a counter gank. Let's commit.
Yep, and here he comes. There's the bear stance. I don't think it's going to be able to do anything, though. Nice speed up from Aphromoo. I don't think he even had to use his blood rush to get out of there. In the meantime, Xmithy moving up through the top lane. There's the flash in, but a nice flash out from Westrice is going to deny the impale from Xmithy. Nice reaction from Westrice, keeping him alive. That's a lot of time wasted from Xmithy.
Yeah, but at the same time, they do see Skarner in the top lane, so what does Curse do? They immediately say, let's go for Dragon. We have Smite, we have a couple of guys up. Morgana's going to try to throw out a bind or two, but since it's not an AP Morgana, not too afraid of it.
Yeah, and the mandatory cloud is on the other side of the team fight. Aphromoo getting possibly a little bit too big for his britches, but a nice smite from St. Vicious going to pick up the kill onto Dragon.
Flash stun from St. Vicious.
There's ultimate from Cutie falling dangerously low. Aphromoo has been bear stunned, allowing Karthus and Ezreal to catch up. He will be burst down, and that is Karthus picking up the kill. Now he has flashed in, landing some lay waste, and the Defile is going to be able to pick up the kill. He backs up just a little too soon, but here comes the Requiem. Is the Black Shield enough? Yes! Muffin Cutie barely keeping himself alive with that Black Shield.
And that's a huge deal. That Karthus ultimate, because the cooldown is so long, you want to use that knowing you're going to net yourself at least one kill. If you don't get anything, that is a very long cooldown wasted. It's roughly 3 minutes in length, actually just over 3 minutes, 192-second cooldown. He also didn't have that blue buff, so no 20% cooldown reduction, going to give him a little bit faster of an ultimate timer. So that's a huge play for Mono right now. Muffin QT actually baiting out a huge ability out of Curse, so now they realize, alright, we can be a little bit more aggressive. We can actually tower dive without worrying about that huge cannon coming down from orbit and smiting everyone in its path. And just having that is a huge peace of mind. That will allow Cho to even roam a bit and maybe try to dive that bottom lane.
Yeah, that Dragon going down, meaning that since it was Udyr that picked it up, Curse, they are ahead in gold now by about 1.5k. That's not too much. And I want to attribute a lot of that to Karthus allowing himself to catch up in gold. Cho'Gath got ahead very quickly, but because Karthus can farm so well, he's just been able to keep up. He was only 16 CS behind. Meantime, bot lane, both teams have opted to be very passive. There's nothing to fight over right now. Towers are down, let's see, Jace is trying to farm up with that safety, trying to just get ahead of Yorick. Excuse me, usually Yorick's ahead. It's kind of funny to try and say, yeah, he's trying to he's trying to catch up to Yorick.
No, but I'm taking a look at the items. Yorick did complete his man immune, and he has the armor boots as well. So it's going to be a little bit better in terms of trading against Westrice. Westrice did go for the magic resist boots because, surprisingly enough, Yorick's early game is heavily magic oriented, because once those ghouls land, they do a significant amount of magic damage, and later on in the game, it's a little bit more reliant on his auto attacks and the AD that he gets from the mana on the man immune and the frozen heart. They're more likely than not be picking up at some stage. But at the same time, Skarner with those boots 5, so at any point we could be seeing him with the shield movement speed boost on top of the boots, as long as he's not attacked, completely picking someone out off guard, possibly even in the mid lane right now.
So
Skarner
mid lane,
himself.
Smithy actually moving in, but nope. Is he going to go for the Impale? St. Vicious here to help turn this around. There's the bear stun, and now he has a nice beefy Udyr in front of him, but Rupture is going to go out, forcing St. Vicious and Nightjacky to step back. Good play, counterplay from both mMe and Curse.
And so we do have a 1-to-1 tower lead. Actually, no difference in towers, so there's no lead, but could be seeing a potential engage in this bottom lane. We see St. Vicious running down on Udyr. He has an Oracles as well, so going to be able to spot any wards that might be in his way, and he has not been spotted yet.
There are none. He's going to go straight for it. There's the bear stance in. A nice binding on Soraka is going to keep her out of the fight, and an ultimate coming out from Morgana, trying to slow down St. Vicious. It is going to go out. Aphromoo is doing what he can. There is the ultimate coming out, but the Requiem from Karthus is coming out, and he is going to pick up the kill on Muffin Cutie. Aphromoo forced to back off at 200 health, and that is going to be a kill for Curse. However, Balls was able to pick up a kill onto Westrise, showing, hey, even though I'm a little bit behind, I'm Yorick. I'm still an early game master, so overall, globally, 1-for-1.
I'm actually going to go back and take a look at that fight, because it looked like it was incredibly close. I'm going to go back twice. There we see Westrise just going down, so here we go. Here's the engage. Yorick did pop his ult, and Karthus, surprisingly enough, didn't manage to clean up Balls. It was actually in a huge burst up front between the QE and a couple of auto attacks out of Jace, but Yorick with all the ghouls up and just those armor boots, a little bit of sustain from his E-ghoul, he was able to stay in the fight just long enough to clean up that kill. So I'm going to jump back to live because it seems like everything's A-okay.
Yep, nothing has really gone on so far. Both teams are content to farm right now. Neither team has enough of an advantage to say, hey, yeah, I'm confident enough to engage in the enemy's jungle or make too aggressive of a play. But here's Xmithy. There's the Impale on Elements and a nice Rupture combo, but that Flash is going to go out from Elements. There's the Feast, but a nice heal from Elements is going to keep himself alive. Ignite is out. Will it be enough? No, but here's the one for Ultimate from Ezreal. Yes, he is going to be able to pick up the kill on the Mandatory Cloud. A 1-for-0 exchange in the favor of Curse. Well played from all of them. Elements barely getting out of there with his life.
So you commentated that play brilliantly, but I used the jump to live button, and it jumped me to 15 seconds before live. I don't know what the deal with that was. My apologies. We caught the middle of the fight.
Ruh-roh. Well, basically what you guys missed was Soraka got impaled. I may have called her Sona, but she got impaled, but she was saved thanks to a nice, timely flash, dodging that silence from Mandatory Cloud.
But now we're seeing the poke start to come out. Curse is starting to, since we do have a couple of towers down, they're starting to group up a little bit more, and Jace is incredibly potent with his poke, the acceleration gate into a Q. Karthus can pop Lay Waste wherever he wants, because it's such a cheap spell to cast, especially if he's picking you up creep kill. It's actually going to get refunded on mana, more or less. And then you have the Ezreal poke, and Soraka every now and then could toss out a silence or even a star call. And now Dragon
that's
is up.
something we didn't really talk about. It is a nice poke composition from Curse's part. Something important to note about a poke composition is that it's more than just your ability to throw out harass. It's also your ability to counter engage and even engage as soon as you've thrown out enough pokes. So Dragon did fall to Curse, second Dragon of the game, going out to them.
Yeah, that is a huge deal. That 1,000 gold, even though one dragon on its own isn't significant, having that timer, knowing exactly when it's going to come up, it allowed that team to secure even more dragons. So 1,000 gold initially, but now it's an extra 2,000. We see the gold difference is 2.7k right now, and that's all attributed to those two dragons. So now we see Aphromoo, Muffin Cutie, siege up on this tower, swiftly taking it down. Skarner may have been spotted. I'm seeing pings come out from Curse. They may be thinking that Skarner's trying to take this blue buff, but no, they're going to come up and see that the blue buff is still safe. So Nightjack is going to have free reign on this blue, almost having a death cap completed. Once that death cap is done, we're going to see a whole different ballgame coming out from Karthus.
Yeah, definitely. He only has that Rod of Ages for his damage right now, but he has picked up a needlessly large rod. He has almost finished that death cap. And that, I think, is going to be the time where they say, okay, we have enough damage to really start engaging team fights. That's when we're going to start seeing them group up, trying to get Karthus into the middle of the enemy team with the help of that acceleration gate from Westrise. And St. Vicious, of course, moved in there, doing his best to keep Nightjacky alive as long as possible so they can deal the maximum amount of damage. And, of course, we have the lockdown from West Rice as well. Not quite enough lockdown to keep them in the entire duration of Nijacky's passive, perhaps, but it should be enough, because the cleanup potential from Curse is massive. Ezreal, of course, is the AD carry. That's his whole point. We have elements in there to make sure that the team is strong enough through that fight with that wish to allow them to clean up. And of course, we have everyone's burnt their flat and all of their mobility.
Mr. Oracle, it seems like you may have some lag on your end. The Skype call is starting to drop out. So I don't know what's going on, but I'm just going to take the reins for a little bit until it seems like you're back in it. And I'm taking a look at all these items, and Cho'Gath went in the mid lane to be that AP carry, but if you take a look at his items right now, I'm going to actually scold him real quickly. He has an Abyssal Scepter and a Cage's Lucky Pick. With 224 farm and a gold per 10, it's very interesting to see that he's severely lagging in the magic damage department. We see the Karthus ultimate come out. Looked like they were expecting to maybe pick off Yorick, but Yorick was able to flash out of there and get away safely. With that flash being gone, it's going to be rather rough in the next fight for York. He's going to have to sit there and essentially commit all or nothing. And so how are we on lag?
Looks like we're doing better.
Sounds like you're good.
Alright, sorry about that. Just some momentary Comcast goofiness.
Now, this is going to be an issue for MME. I believe they just spotted Draven being in the bot lane, so they're trying to siege up this mid tower once again. And without that AD carry, there's not much MME can do. Cho'Gath, he does have the blue buff, so he can spam out those ruptures into feral screams. Oh, gonna be denied the impale on Skarner just because of that wall of pain from Karthus.
Yeah, Karthus' Wall of Pain isn't just a good initiation tool, it's a really good counter-initiation tool. And it's another thing that's very, it's very telling of a poke composition. It's, you have that disengage just in case they decide to get too big for their britches. Skarner, of course, he tries to run in there as quickly as possible, but if the Wall of Pain comes up in time, even a flash won't get him in range for that impale because it's such a short range, it's almost point blank.
And I'm fairly surprised to see that we're not seeing either team try to bait out a Baron. We're at the 22-minute mark, and you take a look at the gold totals, and just the sheer items that we're seeing, potentially for either team we're seeing they have the damage and the tankiness to take a Baron. They may just be waiting to see if they can have a very clean team fight, because at this point, I believe you said it before, it can go either way, but let's say some individual does get caught out, a big player such as Karthus or Ezreal, if they get caught out and die, that's going to put that team, like for Curse for example, on the back foot, and MME will have free reign on that Baron buff and be able to completely take the game, take the bull by the horn, so to speak.
Yeah, however, both teams are really just content to drag this game out as long as possible, it seems like. I guess both of them think they have the better late game, but there is the Wall of Pain going out on the balls. This may be the pick. A nice Black Shield going to stop balls from getting stunned. And now Smithy flashing in and using his ultimate on the West Rise. He's going to get burst down. Is the Ignite going to be enough? I don't think so. In the meantime, mME.Cutie getting burst down as well. Curse is in the driver's seat of this fight. There's the ultimate from Afromu, though. West Rise has rejoined the fight, and now St. Vicious getting burst down very quickly. He is going to fall to Afromu. The same damage is too much. Afromu, though, with the ultimate from Yorick, is going to be able to help clean that fight up. And now, however, they are getting pushed off of that. Something really important to note about that fight, even it was a 2-for-2, but Balls ulted Afromu, actually getting 2 AD carries for his team right there, and that managed to pick up the kill. That was the deciding point. Curse had that team fight, but that Draven clone was able to do so much extra damage that it helped turn that into a 2-for-2. I
was actually very surprised that Afromu was able to get up to that fight in time. MME just had the sheer poke and defensive ability. They could hold off Curse just long enough for Afromu to get right up in there and allow York to get that clone off. And just as that fight was ending, I thought that Cho'Gath decided to flash in place, as we see here the dead tower. It was actually Afromu flashing in just behind Cho to save his own life from Ezreal's poke. That was incredibly well done and awfully nice and mandatory Cloud to say, alright, I'll die for you, even though he didn't quite fall over.
So it looks like, nope, they are not quite confident enough to go for this Baron. There is Oracles out onto mME.Cutie, but even though they don't see any wards, they are not quite confident enough to do this. There is the bind on the St. Vicious. Nice stand aside is going to push him into the team, but Wall of Pain is going to try to keep him alive. Smithy with the Black Shield going to negate that slow, but it's not going to be enough. Not quite. He does not have Impale off of cooldown yet. It's still on cooldown from the last fight. This is so different from the rest of the game. They just went from Both teams just went from very passive to very aggressive in the matter of half a minute.
And I'm very surprised enemy didn't decide to commit because they know that Nijaki's ultimate is down. That Karthus ultimate makes such a big difference as we've been seeing in these other engagements. When that ultimate down, there's not as much of a threat from Karthus. All he really has is the Wall of Pain and a couple of lay wastes. Defile is scary as well, but it's easy to keep that locked in place and avoid it.
Alright, so it looks like, yes, Ambitious is going to get grabbed, but is it going to be enough? No, he is still alive and is able to get out. In the meantime, though, Karthus is going to fall. He's going to do as much as he can. All he's hating, though, really, is the Afro move Ghost, and that is going to allow mMe to just sort of back off with 2 kills under their belt. Dragon did go down at 2909, and the ultimate Ezreal not quite enough to do enough damage to kill xMithy. Just barely getting away with his life. That is going to be mid-tower for mMe. Excellent plays coming out from them. 2 team fights in a row.
I'm laughing because once that Ezreal went across and almost took out xMithy, muffincutie said, oh hey, here's your shield, just so you know you're still alive. I could have used it just as it was coming across, but I'll risk it. But another good thing that Balls was very good awareness on his part. He had the clone from Aframu, and he had that Draven ult, and even though he could use it to commit a little bit more damage onto Curse, he actually used to have it right next to him, so because he was standing right next to Karthus, and Karthus was trying to use his Defiles to pick off that Yorick. But if Yorick was alone, he'd be taking double the damage from the lay waste, but he had the clone right on top of him, so he was splitting the damage in half. Very, very good play on his part.
Yeah, that's a sort of micro that you usually don't see from League of Legends players, but Balls is just so experienced with Yorick and I guess other champions that are used to having some other person that or some other unit that you can control. Maybe he's been playing a little bit of Dota 2. I don't know.
I think that's just from having extreme game knowledge and knowing that because he's up in the front and the rest of his team is ways behind, he's going to be the #1 focus in the middle of that fight from Karthus. So he's going to keep the Draven next to him. If someone gets in range, that's fine. He's going to treat the clone just like another AD carry.
Vicious has been grabbed again, but it's nope. The binding was not enough to really engage on him. They do not want to engage on Udyr with the rest of the team so close.
And now just take a quick look at the items. The gold difference is 300 gold. We see Curse is at the fort at 40,000 gold, but Mono is immediately behind them. There is no direct advantage between either team. It's just going to come down to who has the better engagement and focus in team fights.
Yeah, right now, Soraka has the Shurelya's Reverie, and Skarner has just now picked his up. Both teams are in full team fight mode. They have everything that they need in order to win a fight, and all that's going to matter now is which team can get the better engagement off. Are mMe going to be able to get the pick that they need, or are Curse going to be able to just run into mMe and pick off the targets and engage that as strongly as I know their team comp can? It's going to come down to the engagement, I think, entirely.
We do see Yorick has his Frozen Violet like we were expecting earlier on in the game. The Man Immune Spirit Visage, so very high in cooldown reduction. Cho'Gath, 6 stacks of Feast. That's going to be incredibly tough to pick off, and here's the engagement.
So right now both teams sort of doing the Baron dance. Soraka going to move out, not going to get picked off. mMe is going for this. The damage between Yorick and Draven is massive. The Ezreal ultimate not enough to pick it up, but yes, Curse picking up Baron for themselves. But in the meantime, Balls has fallen, xMithy has fallen as well. muffincutie trying to use her ultimate defensively to get out of there, but the slow from Westrise I think is going to be able to pick up the kill. In the meantime, Cop killing Aframu. Here comes the ultimate from Nijaki, but it's not quite enough to pick up Mandatory Cloud. Are they going to continue chasing? No, they can't figure out quite which way he's gone. So he's going to try to kill these wolves in an effort to get some health back in case he does get caught, but he is going to go ahead and back. Nice Baron steal and 4 kills for Curse.
That was an incredible play on Curse's part, realizing, alright, there's only 3 people here, where are the other 2 going to be? Maybe they're trying to 2-man Baron, and that's exactly what happened. We're seeing pro teams kind of try to make some cheeky plays. We've seen it before where Sona would sit on Baron with 2 other people. I believe it was Lee Sin and possibly Jax. And because Sona's incredibly good at sustaining two people, it allows them to take a very fast Baron. And these teams are realizing, alright, we have high amounts of gold. We don't need everyone there to take out that objective. Where are they? Because we have a bunch of wards out. We don't quite see them, though. And the last place we saw Morgana was clearing a ward. Let's go check it out real quick because we have 3 of them separated from us. And what do you know? That's where they were trying to do Baron. There's a brilliant smite from St. Vicious. mentioned, to steal that away, and in turn allow them to turn around that fight incredibly well. And now this could be Curse's game. We're going to see what plays they do decide to make, but this gold lead has been greatly extended. Just before we were within 200 gold, now it's within 5.7 thousand.
Yeah, that was not the sort of engagement that I was expecting at all. That was catching mMe very low, trying to take a two-man Baron. The idea of that was they just go ahead, they try and take Baron, pull it out from under Curse's nose, but because they got caught, both Balls and Aframu were so low that they just were not ready for that fight, and especially Aframu, but Balls as well. Those are two people that you want at high health in the beginning of the fight. Ideally, you want everyone very high at the beginning of the fight, but those two especially, they just could do nothing about that.
And now
that had nothing to do with team composition. That had nothing to do with specific people making certain plays. That was just a huge risk taken by mMe and Curse catching them out on it.
Yeah, and a quick point I want to make, look at the wards. Just before, when you're in the middle of your speech, Karthus had a ward, Jace has a ward, Soraka looks like she has, I can't quite see the numbers here, but I'm going to say it's 7 or 8 wards in her pocket. We have 3 members on mMe also with wards, and there was one on Aframu a little bit earlier as well. Just the sheer number of wards, people need to start realizing it's not just the support's job to ward, and hopefully with all the people watching tonight, you realize, alright, we see these big guys doing it, now I'm going to do the same. And the vision makes all the difference in the world. Vision is a lot more valuable than you would think. I think wards may be even a little too cheap, because if a well-placed ward prevents ganks, can enable ganks at the same time, allow for objective steals, and just the sheer value from that is immeasurable.
Yeah, definitely. To quote, actually, Phantom Lord from Once Upon a Time, in the late game, one of the most important members of the team is the support, because they're the ones that are buying those wards to allow for those Barons and Dragons to happen. So in a way, they are one of the most important members of the team late game.
Oh, but now Karthus has a Void Staff. Oh man, those little seals that he drops from the sky are not going to tickle anymore. That's going to be some serious, serious damage. Come out with the Rod of Ages and Death Cap. 285 farm 32 minutes in. That is very, very impressive considering how early they broke the lane phase.
So Curse does have that inhibitor down, and all of their lanes are pushing. Top lane, top turret is just going to go down to minions. A Rupture is going to land on elements and a Binding as well, but because that is just support Morgana, not going to be able to do much to elements right there. And Curse is shifting up. I think they want to go ahead and just take out this outer tower, get as much of an advantage as possible, try to get the minions pushing in. Do not underestimate the damage from minions, especially if it's a wave this large. Curse is playing this very safely. Both teams are playing this very safely. As soon as one of them got a little bit too ballsy, if I may say, because there is balls on that team.
I see what you did
as soon
there.
as mMe did something a little too ballsy, they got caught out on it.
And one thing you just saw as Curse was retreating, you saw the Wall of Pain come out to make sure that there was no big Shurilia's engagement from mMe, and then they had the acceleration gate just behind them. So everyone got the movement speed buff, and then if anyone from Mono decided to try to pick someone off from behind, they were going to be immediately slowed. And slow percentages, they act fairly weird because it'll take your maximum speed and then slow that by a percentage. So the faster you are, the more effective that slow is going to be.
So we see Curse, they're finally stacking up again, clearing out their jungle, and they are pushing down mid. It looks like they're all grouping up. And I'm not certain what they want to do right now. They are, even though they do not have Baron buff any longer. That timed out just a little bit ago.
Even though the
And
Baron
now,
buff's
though,
gone.
they are just going to play this safe. I think they want to just wait this out until the next Baron. As soon as they have that, that's when they're going to start making their big plays.
Yeah, because they do know that mMe is still incredibly, incredibly tanky. There's a huge amount of armor on Yorick. Cho'Gath, tons of health, also has a significant amount of armor and magic resist on himself because he also has that Zhonya's Hourglass. Two very big engagement mechanisms, even as long as they don't take damage, between Cho and Skarner now, so they can both engage fairly well. And Skarner also has Shurilia's Reverie, so a very easy way for them to grab one person off guard. And even though Curse has been so dominant in the last 10 minutes or so, Mono can easily turn this one around and say, hey guys, you aren't quite done yet.
Yeah, we are getting into the later stages of the game where the death timers are getting much larger. That means that even if, no matter how far ahead you are, if you lose a team fight and the death timers are 50 seconds, 60 seconds, that is a large enough window for you to lose in.
This is true. 1 or 2 kills on key champions could actually make that difference.
Yeah, we're going to be looking for Xmithy trying to get a grab onto Cop or Nijaki. I think that Nijaki would be a big mistake because, alright, look, I grabbed Karthus. Hey, I'm going to pull him into our team now. Oh boy.
But now the Baron's up. Curse looks like they're baiting in a big fight. This could be huge.
Yep, there's the wall of pain going out on almost the entirety of mMe. However, they don't want to engage on this. A little bit too awkward. They're clearing out wards right now. They're trying to keep vision on each other. Elements has the oracles there, but he doesn't want to get caught out too early. Xmithy does have this flash. He has Impale. He has Shurelia's, but there's another wall of pain. Worried about Xmithy trying to engage on this, but the wall of pain is down. Is Xmithy going to try to use this small window of opportunity? There's the Impale onto Elements. This is the engagement they need. St. Vicious jumping in, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Elements forced to flash out. He's not part of this fight anymore. Nijaki falling, and the rest of mMe is just running away from this. Here comes the ultimate from Karthus, though. Will it be enough? St. Vicious running away with nothing. Yes, he does pick up Muffin Cutie, but that is going to be the only casualty on mMe. Nijaki being the only casualty for Curse. That is going to be a 1-for-1, and that could have been very different. Xmithy looking for a pick, though. Here's Elements coming around. Why is St. Vicious still here? There is the heal from Soraka trying to keep him ready for this team fight. What are they going to do? They are both on either side of the walls, clearing out wards, trying to keep vision on each other, but in the end, mMe is going to move back out into lane. Super Minions were pushing through that mid lane. They just want to clear this out, but they are still here. Curse is ready for this. 12 seconds on Muffin Cutie, 18 on Nijaki. St. Vicious getting a lot of health back from those healings from Soraka. She did use her ult that fight, and so it won't be available. Xmithy, another 30 seconds on his ultimate. Looks like they're going to try to fight over this blue buff. Mandatory Cloud hitting this down pretty hard, and yes, he is going to be able to pick that blue buff up, and he has started backing, but Curse has started Baron. Xmithy spotting that out. Cop trying to poke them down with Q. Westrise taking a lot of damage from a single auto attack from Aphromu. Look at that. Spinning blades are massive. There's ultimate from Yorick, and there's a Shirley's in from Xmithy. He flashes in trying to chase down Cop. There's ultimate from Cop. He is not going to hit anyone but Balls and Xmithy. He is forced to flash out, but the auto attack from Aphromu is going to pick up the kill on St. Vicious. Now Xmithy using his ultimate on Nijaki with a nice real heal from Soraka is going to negate a lot of damage. He is going to fall. Xmithy is going to fall to Cop, and ultimate from Draven going out. Not quite going to do as much as he wanted. Nijaki barely surviving there. Another 1-for-1 exchange in that second team fight.
And Curse is just realizing how tanky Monomaniac really is, because even though they have the gold lead, they're getting the advantage on the engages. Even though Soraka got caught a little bit out of place, it's just the amount of damage that Mono was able to absorb is incredible. Because Soraka may not have been the absolute best pull, but it was the opportune pull, and it forced the engagement, and Curse tried to completely jump all over that. Nijaki got right in the middle with his Defile and his Wall of Pain, doing as much damage as he could to all 5 members of Mono, but the peel capability and the mobility that they have just because they're able to peel so well allows Mono to be a little bit more effective than you may expect.
So both teams right now going to go ahead and pick up their items. Darius, or no, gosh darn it, Jace, not Darius. They look so similar to me for some reason, both grizzled men.
Tall, grown man without a beard.
So they, both Jace and Ezreal have their Triforce, and that is going to be huge for the next team fight. Xmithy has his Aegis, and he, of course, he still has his Shurelia's Reverie. These team fights are just so intense. Everything is going well for both teams. Elements was able to get out of there in that first team fight, so a lot of that upfront damage from mMe was only to get Soraka out of there, but she wanted to be in the back of the team fight anyway.
This next fight is going to come down to whoever makes the slightest mistake, and the other team needs to capitalize on that. So let's say Cho'Gath gets caught out. Even though he has that Zonius and is fairly tanky, all you have to do is get him low enough that he's forced away from the fight. We saw Morgana was getting bursted down quite a bit, and she actually had to go back and heal up. And maybe Curse realizes they're going to try to initiate, try to start a Baron, maybe even bait the Baron fight. We'll see what they do, but at the same time, there's so much magic damage on the side of mMe, and Baron provides a magic damage debuff. So the longer they sit in Baron, the more vulnerable they are to that magic damage, and that may be what mMe is looking for.
So look at this, xMithy using his Shirley. He's ready to try to get in, but he can't get any targets, and he has dropped down to below half health. Mandatory Cloud throwing out the silence on almost everyone. Nijaki jumping into the middle of the fight. He does die, but mMe is able to get out of there. However, Aphromoo is going to fall. That is a nice chunk of mMe's damage. Balls falls as well. That is a, let's see, that was only a 1-for-1. However, mMe much lower than Curse. Got the worst of that fight, and I think that Curse is going to be able to pick up the second Baron of the game, and I think that they may be able to shut this out. Yep, oh no, xMithy has tried to steal it, but he got caught out by Cop. The burst damage was too much thanks to that Trinity Force, and now I think Curse is going to push through mid and try and do something here. They want to take the inhibitor, but are they bold enough to try and tank one of the top, or try to tank the top or bottom tower and pick up that inhibitor as well?
Just take a look at the sheer armor values. Udyr has Randuin's Omen and Aegis of the Legion. We also have Soraka actually has the Lock of the Iron Solarial, allowing for a little bit more health regen, so they can easily tank both the Nexus Towers if they so desired, considering Yorick and Skarner are down. But one good chomp and a couple auto attacks, or the chomp coming from Yorick and the auto attacks from Draven, could actually spell disaster for Curse if they do play it wrong, but they push the inhibitor, going to play it very safe, taking the dragon, pushing the gold lead even further. So 4 members with Baron, going to give them an extra 3,400 gold in terms of raw stats of health regen, AP, and AD, and at the same time, they also have just a complete 10,000 gold lead. Actually, an exact 10,000 gold lead, so the Baron's going to push them to 13.4 thousand gold ahead as long as this buff is active.
Sorry, hold on just a moment.
Sure thing.
Alright, there we go.
Oh, so you're updating the Baron buff. I didn't quite realize what was going on there. But now it seems like Curse, once they're a lot more comfortable once they have that Baron buff. They were a lot more successful in the team fights when they have that buff. And mMe pre-Baron buff acquired from Curse, they stayed in the running. They were able to trade 1-for-1 and stay fairly healthy, but now with this buff running, I don't foresee mMe doing much of anything. They have to play extremely defensive and try to make sure that Curse doesn't land these other 2 Nexus towers, inhibitor towers.
Yeah, this is where Curse's team composition is really going to get a chance to shine. They have that poke composition. They have the strong poke from Westrice, from Nijaki. They have the nice counter engages. They have the poke from Cop. And Jace right now, he has so much damage. Look at his build. He has Trinity Force and Bloodthirster, and it looks like they actually want to engage this under tower. Nope. The acceleration gate and the wall of pain went out, but there's a binding out into Westrice. There's ultimate from xMithy trying to pull him out, but he flashes over the wall. Nice Ezreal ultimate is going to hit a lot of people. Mandatory Cloud forced to use the Zonias to try and stay alive, but he is going to fall. Ultimate coming out from Nijaki, not quite able to do as much as he wanted to, but Westrice getting picked off actually, while the rest of the team focuses on the tower. Cop, his damage just was not there. There's the flashing from St. Vicious to do the bear stance stun. Shirley's coming out from xMithy, try to save his life. Flash coming out from Cop as well to try and pick up the kill, but it's not going to be enough. Right now, it is a 2-for-2, and mMe is trying to heal up on their altar while their inhibitor goes down. Curse wants to finish this up, I think. They are trying to take this tower. Flash went out on balls, but it has finished, and he is taking a lot of damage from Cop. Draven is down right now, so the damage just is not there. Muffin Cutie, xMithy, and Balls, the only ones there to try and hold off the remainder of Curse. Bear Stance going out from St. Vicious, and Cop is going to end up finishing off the tower. First Nexus tower is down. The Qs from Soraka are starting to stack up now. xMithy doing what he can, but St. Vicious is just too tanky. There's the Bear Stance stun. He has been slowed. Cop throwing out a lot of damage on the Muffin Cutie as well. Balls still pretty healthy, but Mandatory Cloud and Aphromoo are going to be spawning again very quickly. Nice blinding on a St. Vicious, and the Impale are going to pull him back into the team. He is going to try to waddle out of there. Is it going to be enough? But he has been slowed, and a nice binding from Morgana again. Going to catch him out. Cop going to Arcane Shift over the wall. Elements is currently backing. St. Vicious looks like he is being left to die. No! He is so tough, and he has so much regen from that Baron buff that he is able to get out of there just barely. Summation, bottom tower and inhibitor going down, and one of the Nexus towers for mMe falling as well.
And you saw once Draven went down how lopsided the fight went, because this is now essentially a protect the Draven team comp. Morgana with the shields and binds. Cho'Gath's damage is fairly lacking now. He does have the Deathfire Grasp and a little bit of spell penetration from the Abyssal Scepter, but that's still not a terrible amount. They're looking to have that clone up from balls as long as they can, as well as Aphromoo staying in the fight as long as he can, meaning that he needs to stay alive. And Skarner landing a pull onto the likes of Udyr, not exactly the best option, because you see how incredibly tanky he is. He just walked out. He didn't care how many things were thrown at him. He just kept spamming that bear stance and running away. And
Yeah, I'd like to draw attention to one thing that you said right there. Aphromoo could not stay alive in that fight, and I think that's what really did them in. He doesn't have any escape besides Flash, and Curse, because of their high mobility, is able to take advantage of that. He has been shut down in almost every single team fight, so despite his good stats, 7, 3, and 4, he just cannot stay alive in these important team fights. Look at that poke coming out onto Aphromoo. He's going to try to life steal that back before the next engagement, but if Curse decides to engage, he is going to begin this fight with a very large disadvantage. skirmishes also getting poked a little bit, but the heals from Soraka are going to keep him in there.
Now, I'm wondering what item is Aphromoo going for? He has Infinity Edge, he has Bloodthirster, Phantom Dancer, and Berserker's Greaves, and also Last Whisper. I'm not sure if I mentioned that one, but he also has a recurve bow.
I'm not sure. That my thought would be a Last Whisper, but I think that might be a little bit goofy on an AD carry.
I think that if you look at the raw health values of St. Vicious and Jace, it's going to be a Magic's Blood Razor.
Draven, Westeros getting bursted down pretty bad, but the binding is going to miss. They're not going to be able to engage on anyone. This tower is slowly but steadily going down, and I expect that St. Vicious is in fact going to tank this tower. He's taking a lot of burst damage though, and he is forced to get out of there. Nice and Pale onto Elements is going to pull him into the team. Is he going to fall? Aphromoo also falling dangerously low. A Feast onto Nijaki is going to finish him off, but here comes the ultimate from Karthus. How much is it going to do? Not enough to pick up a kill, but is going to chunk mMe down very badly. Elements and Nijaki, though, are too low to try to... Elements and Nijaki are dead, excuse me. So, Curse is going to back off from this. They are slowly but steadily working their way through mMe's base.
And now Baron's going to be up very shortly as well, so this is going to be very, very rough for mMe. We see St. Vicious going back, as directed camera shows me. Oh, look, he wants to go back and pick up a couple more items, so he makes sure he never, ever dies again in this game. But the same...
Right now, I'd like to go back and look at that recurve bow that he bought right there. Usually when you see this completed build coming out from an AD carry, you think, okay, let's go ahead and get Guardian Angel so they can't focus me down. But instead he's got this recurve bow. He gets focused down so hard in all of these team fights, he dies far too quickly. He needs something to keep him alive. Quicksilver Sash, Guardian Angel, I don't care, Randuin's, it has to be something.
Well, the rest of his team they're built to keep him alive, to make sure he stays in the fight, because if he's down for any amount of time, that gives the rest of Curse the time needed to rip through one or two more people of mMe, and so even though he may come back alive, he's going to swiftly die the second he comes back alive. So it looks like he's going for as much damage as possible. So that recurve bow, more likely than not, will go into a Magic's Blood Razor, which has really fallen out of favor, but incredible against high health targets. And with the clone from Yorick, it'll allow double Magic's Blood Razor, double Last Whisper, double Infinity Edge, just double of everything, double Draven, and with 437 farm, that's a whole lot of damage to deal with.
Yeah, but he is going to have to play this well. He cannot get picked off. He cannot be forced out of the fight as early as he has been. Finding not going to land. Curse does have Baron now. They just picked it up. Are they going to be able to turn this into a victory? It's certain that they want to, but mMe is doing a good job of clearing out these minions. Right now, they just want to drag this game out as long as possible. Make that gold gap not matter. Finish everyone's builds, but I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. Middle inhibitor is still down. Bottom lane is pushing. Curse can just stay here for as long as they like. But there's the engagement from St. Vicious, but the ultimate from Skarner comes out, and he is going to... No! He flashes out of there. Nice heal from Strong is going to keep him alive, but Nijaki is going to fall, and mMe is moving completely out of there. Muffin Cutie, however, falling down. Nijaki picking it up with a lay waste, and now the rest of mMe forced out of that fight. St. Vicious is still there. Sirach is going to heal him up and try to keep him going. The damage from Jason to the inhibitor is huge, and it is going to fall. Curse is going to continue pushing into this base with super minions coming down the mid lane. They are moving down to that bottom inhibitor. Xmithy doesn't have anything more for a pick. And now Westeros actually taking a lot of damage. Mandatory Cloud looking for a Rupture. Is it going to land? Yes, it's going to land on Elements. And the damage is massive, but she flashes out of there after move. Getting burst down by Ezreal. There goes the kill. Mandatory Cloud is next target. He is going to fall to Udyr. And now Xmithy left completely alone. He falls to Udyr as well. Double kill for St. Vicious. All inhibitors are down. GG's being called out. Curse taking game 2 and forcing this into a third in this best of 3.
What a game! Wow, the amount of back and forth action we saw in this game, and we saw how close the gold lead was.